You opened your eyes this morning. Your chest rose and fell. Air filled your lungs. Your heart beat steadily in your chest. These aren't accidents. These aren't random occurrences in a chaotic universe. Every breath you take, every moment of consciousness you experience, every sunrise you witness, they're all evidence of something profound. God woke you up today because He's not done with you yet. Let that truth settle over you for a moment. In a world where so much feels uncertain, where so many questions remain unanswered, here's what you can know with absolute certainty. You are here, in this moment, because your purpose hasn't been fulfilled. Your story isn't over. The chapters God is writing in your life still have pages left to turn. Section 1. The significance of waking. There's something we've forgotten in our modern lives. We've reduced waking up to a mundane event, something ordinary, something we take for granted. We hear the alarm, we hit snooze, we drag ourselves out of bed with barely a thought about the miracle that just occurred. But our ancestors knew better. The psalmist wrote, "This is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it." They understood that each new day was a gift, an act of divine intentionality. When you woke up this morning, it wasn't just biology. Yes, your brain transitioned from sleep to consciousness, your neurons fired, your body systems activated. But there was something more. There was divine permission. There was heavenly endorsement. God looked at your life, at your incomplete purpose, at the work He still has for you, and He said, "Not yet. They're not finished yet." Think about that. In the vastness of creation, in the complexity of billions of human lives, God knows exactly where you are. He knows what you've been through. He knows the struggles you've faced, the mistakes you've made, the dreams that have died, the disappointments that have accumulated. And yet, with full knowledge of all of it, the good, the bad, the broken, the beautiful, He chose to wake you up today. This isn't about earning anything. You didn't wake up because you were good enough. You didn't open your eyes because you finally got it right. You're not here this morning because you've achieved some level of spiritual perfection. You're here because God is merciful. You're here because God is faithful. You're here because God keeps His promises, and He promised that His purposes for you would be fulfilled. Let's section 2, when you thought it was over. Maybe you're hearing these words right now, and part of you is struggling to believe them. Maybe you've been through so much that the idea of God having more for you feels impossible. Maybe you've failed so many times that you've convinced yourself you've used up all your chances. Maybe life has beaten you down so thoroughly that waking up doesn't feel like a blessing. It feels like facing another day of struggle. I understand. I really do. There are seasons in life when waking up feels like a burden rather than a gift. There are mornings when opening your eyes means facing problems you don't know how to solve, confronting pain you don't know how to heal, walking through circumstances you never wanted to experience. But here's what I need you to hear. Your feelings about your life don't change God's plans for your life. Your discouragement doesn't cancel His purposes. Your weariness doesn't negate His promises. The fact that you can't see the path forward doesn't mean there isn't one. The Bible is filled with people who thought they were done. Moses was 80 years old, hiding in the desert when God called him to lead an entire nation to freedom. 80. Most people would consider that past the point of new beginnings, past the point of grand purposes. But God wasn't finished with Moses. The most significant work of his life was still ahead of him. Or consider Abraham and Sarah. They were old, childless, living with decades of unfulfilled promises. Sarah had stopped believing she could have a child. Her body told her it was impossible. Logic told her it was over. But God woke her up day after day because He wasn't done. The promise was still active. The purpose was still unfolding. Think about David. He made catastrophic mistakes. He committed adultery. He orchestrated murder. He failed spectacularly in ways that should have disqualified him from everything. And yet, God wasn't finished with David. There were still psalms to write, still worship to lead, still victories to win, still legacy to build. Or Peter. He denied Jesus 3 times. 3 times he looked into the eyes of people and said, "I don't know him." 3 times he chose self-preservation over loyalty. 3 times he failed at the most crucial moment. And if the story ended there, we'd say Peter was finished. But it didn't end there. Jesus wasn't done with Peter. After the resurrection, Jesus specifically sought Peter out, restored him, recommissioned him, and Peter went on to become a pillar of the early church. Do you see the pattern? God's purposes don't run on human timelines. His plans don't follow our logic. His grace doesn't operate according to our systems of merit and disqualification. When God has a purpose for your life, He will keep waking you up until that purpose is fulfilled. Section 3. The evidence of your breath. Every breath you take is a prayer God is answering. Did you know that? In Genesis, we read that God formed man from the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living being. The Hebrew word used there is neshama. It's the same word used for God's breath, God's spirit. When you breathe, you're experiencing the ongoing gift of God's life force within you. Job understood this. In the midst of his suffering, when everything had been stripped away, he said, "The Spirit of God has made me, and the breath of the Almighty gives me life." Even in his darkest moment, Job recognized that his very breathing was evidence of God's sustaining power. This morning, you breathed. You didn't think about it. It happened automatically. Your lungs expanded, oxygen flooded your bloodstream, your cells received what they needed to function. It's so automatic that we forget how dependent we are on it. We forget that each breath is a gift, a moment-by-moment extension of life, a continuous decision by God to keep us here. Why would God continue giving you breath if He were done with you? Why would He sustain your life if your purpose were complete? Why would He maintain the complex systems that keep you alive if there were nothing left for you to accomplish? The answer is simple. He wouldn't. Your breathing is evidence, your heartbeat is testimony, your consciousness is proof. God is not done with you. And here's what's beautiful about this truth. It means that no matter what happened yesterday, no matter what mistakes you made last week, no matter what you've been struggling with for the past year, none of it has the final word. As long as you're breathing, the story continues. As long as your heart beats, God's purposes are unfolding. As long as you're conscious, there's more for you to experience, more for you to become, more for you to accomplish. Section 4. The unfinished work. God is meticulous. He's thorough. He doesn't leave things incomplete. In Philippians 1:6, Paul writes, "I am sure of this, that he who began a good work in you will bring it to completion at the day of Jesus Christ." Did you catch that? Not might bring it to completion or will bring it to completion if you're good enough. The promise is certain. The work will be completed. This means that whatever God started in you, whatever gifts He placed in you, whatever calling He whispered to your heart, whatever dreams He planted in your spirit, He will bring to fruition. It might not look like what you expected. The timeline might be different than what you planned. The path might be more winding than you imagined. But the completion is guaranteed. Think about it in practical terms. When an artist starts a painting, they don't abandon it halfway through. They might step away from it for a while. They might let it rest as they work on other projects. They might even paint over sections that didn't turn out right, but they don't leave it unfinished. The artist completes the work. God is the ultimate artist, and you are His masterpiece. Ephesians 2:10 says, "We are His workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works, which God prepared beforehand that we should walk in them." The word translated as workmanship is the Greek word poema. It's where we get our word poem. You are God's poetry, His creative expression, His carefully crafted work of art. And right now, you're still on the canvas. God is still working. He's still shaping, still forming, still adding detail, still bringing out the full beauty of what He envisioned when He first conceived of you. The struggles you're facing, they might be the brush strokes that add depth. The challenges you're navigating, they could be the shading that creates dimension, the waiting you're enduring. It might be the drying time that's necessary before the next layer can be applied. But here's what you need to know. The artist hasn't walked away. The canvas hasn't been abandoned. The work continues. And it will continue until it's complete. Section 5, your purpose is specific. You're not here just to take up space. You're not a random collection of atoms that accidentally achieved consciousness. You're not a mistake, an afterthought, or a backup plan. You were designed with intention. You were created for purpose. And that purpose is specific to you. Jeremiah 29:11 is often quoted, but let's really sit with it. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans for welfare and not for evil, to give you a future and a hope. Notice the specificity. I know the plans I have for you. Not humanity in general, not people who are good enough, not those who have it all together. You, specifically you. God has plans that only you can fulfill. There are people you're meant to impact that no one else can reach the same way. There are problems you're meant to solve with the unique combination of gifts and experiences you possess. There are victories you're meant to achieve that will encourage others in their own struggles. There are words you're meant to speak that will bring life to someone at exactly the right moment. This is why you can't compare your journey to anyone else's. This is why looking at others and wondering why their path seems easier or clearer or more successful is pointless. Their purpose is not your purpose. Their timeline is not your timeline. Their story is not your story. You know what's beautiful? The very things you thought disqualified you might be exactly what qualifies you for your specific purpose. Your struggles have given you empathy. Your failures have taught you grace. Your wounds have made you able to minister to others who are wounded. Your wilderness seasons have taught you to trust God in ways comfort never could. Paul wrote about this in 2 Corinthians 1:4, saying, God comforts us in all our affliction, so that we may be able to comfort those who are in any affliction, with the comfort with which we ourselves are comforted by God. Your pain has purpose. Your trials have meaning. Your scars tell a story that someone needs to hear. Section 6, the divine interruption. Sometimes we think we know what our lives should look like. We make plans, set goals, chart our course. And then something happens that disrupts everything. An illness, a loss, a failure, a detour we never saw coming. And we think, this is it. My life is ruined. God has abandoned me. It's over. But what if those interruptions are actually divine redirections? What if what you perceive as God being absent is actually God being actively involved, steering you away from what you wanted and toward what you need? Think about Joseph. He had dreams of greatness, literal dreams that showed him in a position of honor and authority. And then his brothers betrayed him, sold him into slavery, and his life became a nightmare of false accusations and imprisonment. Years passed, dreams died, hope faded, but God wasn't done. Every betrayal, every injustice, every moment of suffering was positioning Joseph for a purpose so significant that it would save nations. When Joseph finally stood before his brothers years later, he could have been bitter, he could have been angry, he could have held on to the injustice of it all. But instead, he said something profound. You meant it for evil, but God meant it for good, to bring about that many people should be kept alive as they are today. What are you going through right now that feels like evil? What circumstance is crushing you? What disappointment is breaking your heart? I'm not going to minimize your pain or pretend it doesn't hurt. It does hurt. It's real. It's valid. But I need you to consider this possibility. What if God is using this very thing to position you for your purpose? What if this interruption is actually divine preparation? What if this detour is actually the correct path? God wastes nothing. Romans 8:28 promises, and we know that for those who love God, all things work together for good, for those who are called according to his purpose. All things. Not just the good things, not just the easy things, not just the things that make sense. All things, including the painful things, the confusing things, the things that feel like setbacks, work together for good. Section 7, the courage to keep going. But here's where faith gets tested. It's one thing to believe God has a purpose for your life when things are going well. It's another thing entirely to keep believing when you can't see evidence of that purpose. It's one thing to trust God's plans when the path is clear. It's another thing to trust when you're surrounded by darkness and can't see the next step. This is where courage comes in. And let me be clear, courage isn't the absence of fear. Courage isn't feeling confident about the future. Courage is choosing to keep going even when you're afraid, even when you're uncertain, even when every logical reason tells you to give up. Joshua faced this. As Moses' successor, he was tasked with leading an entire nation into an unknown land filled with enemies and challenges. God's instruction to him was repeated multiple times. Be strong and courageous. Why did God have to keep saying it? Because Joshua was afraid, because the task was overwhelming, because the future was uncertain. But God didn't say, don't be afraid. He said, be courageous despite your fear. That's what God is asking of you today, not to pretend you're not afraid, not to fake confidence you don't feel, but to be courageous enough to take the next step anyway, to be brave enough to believe his promises even when circumstances contradict them, to be bold enough to keep going even when you can't see how it's going to work out. Courage looks like getting out of bed when depression tells you to stay under the covers. Courage looks like trying again when failure has wounded you. Courage looks like believing God is good when life has been hard. Courage looks like holding on to hope when hopelessness feels more reasonable. And here's what I know. You already have more courage than you realize. The fact that you woke up today, that you're still here, that you haven't given up, that's courage. Every day you face your challenges, every moment you choose to keep breathing, keep fighting, keep believing, that's courage. God sees that courage. He honors it. He strengthens it. And he's using it to move you toward the purpose he has for you. In Section 8, the process of becoming. We live in an instant culture. We want instant results, instant success, instant transformation. But God works in seasons. He works in process. He works through becoming, not just arriving. Think about how God created you in the first place. You weren't instantly formed as a fully grown adult. You started as a single cell. Then you grew, cell by cell, day by day, month by month. Bones formed, organs developed. A brain took shape. You became, gradually, the physical person you are now. And the process didn't stop at birth. You learned to eat, to roll over, to sit up, to crawl, to walk, to talk. Each stage was necessary. Each phase had its purpose. You couldn't skip steps. You couldn't rush the process. You had to become. The same is true of your spiritual development, your emotional maturity, your purpose fulfillment. You're in process, you're becoming, and God, who started the work in you, is committed to seeing it through to completion. This means that where you are right now, even if it feels like you're in the middle of nowhere, even if it feels like you're stuck, even if it feels like nothing is happening, is part of the process. You're not behind, you're not failing, you're in development. You're being prepared. You're becoming who you need to be for what God has prepared for you to do. The caterpillar doesn't understand the cocoon. From its perspective, everything has gone dark and tight and uncomfortable. It doesn't know it's being transformed. It doesn't realize it's developing wings. It just knows that something significant is happening, something it doesn't have control over, something that feels like ending but is actually beginning. You might be in your cocoon right now. You might be in that dark, tight, uncomfortable place where transformation happens. It doesn't feel like growth. It feels like death. But resurrection always follows death. New life always emerges from what looks like ending. Trust the process. Trust the one who is orchestrating the process. Trust that he knows exactly what he's doing, even when you don't. Section 9, the community of purpose. Here's something else important. You're not meant to fulfill your purpose alone. God designed us for community. He created us to need each other, to support each other, to strengthen each other. Ecclesiastes 4:9-10 says, "Two are better than one, because they have a good reward for their toil. For if they fall, one will lift up his fellow. But woe to him who is alone when he falls and has not another to lift him up." Part of God waking you up today is about the other people in your life. There are people who need you. Your presence matters to them. Your encouragement strengthens them. Your perseverance inspires them. Your faith bolsters their faith. And the reverse is also true. There are people in your life who are there to help you fulfill your purpose. They're not accidents. They're divine appointments. God has strategically placed people in your path who have wisdom you need, perspective you lack, resources you require, encouragement you must have. Sometimes we isolate ourselves when we're struggling. We pull away from community because we feel like a burden, or because we're ashamed of where we are, or because we don't want others to see our weakness. But isolation is dangerous. It's in isolation that lies sound like truth. It's in isolation that despair grows unchecked. It's in isolation that we lose perspective on our purpose. God woke you up today, in part, so you could be present in someone else's life. And He woke up other people so they could be present in yours. Don't rob yourself of that blessing by isolating. Don't deprive others of the opportunity to fulfill their purpose by being there for you. Section 10, the invitation to surrender. Now, here's where this gets practical. Believing that God has a purpose for your life is one thing. Actually, surrendering to that purpose is another. Surrender is hard because it requires trust. It requires letting go of control. It requires releasing your own plans and embracing God's plans, even when His plans don't make sense to you. Jesus modeled this in the Garden of Gethsemane. Facing the cross, knowing the suffering ahead, He prayed, "Father, if you are willing, remove this cup from me. Nevertheless, not my will, but yours, be done." Even Jesus, fully God and fully man, had to choose surrender. He had to choose to trust the Father's purpose even when every human instinct wanted to avoid the pain. Surrender doesn't mean passivity. It doesn't mean you stop trying or stop working or stop moving forward. It means you align your will with God's will. It means you hold your plans loosely and His plans tightly. It means you say yes to His direction even when it's different from what you expected. What is God asking you to surrender today? What control are you clinging to? What plan are you holding on to that He's asking you to release? What fear are you protecting that He's inviting you to trust Him with? Surrender is how you partner with God's purposes for your life. It's how you move from striving to flowing. It's how you transition from forcing things to happen to allowing things to unfold. It's how you stop fighting God and start walking with God. In Section 11, the promise of presence. As we move toward the close of this message, I want you to remember this promise. God doesn't just have purposes for you. He walks with you as those purposes unfold. You're not alone in this journey. In Matthew 28:20, Jesus says, "And behold, I am with you always, to the end of the age." Always, not sometimes. Not when you're doing well, not when you've got it all together. Always. When you're confused, He's with you. When you're afraid, He's with you. When you're tired, He's with you. When you've failed, He's with you. When you can't see the path, He's with you. When you don't understand what's happening, He's with you. The psalmist understood this intimately. In Psalm 139, he writes, "Where shall I go from your spirit, or where shall I flee from your presence? If I ascend to heaven, you are there. If I make my bed in Sheol, you are there. If I take the wings of the morning and dwell in the uttermost parts of the sea, even there your hand shall lead me, and your right hand shall hold me." You cannot go anywhere that God is not. You cannot face anything He won't face with you. You cannot walk through any valley where His presence doesn't accompany you. His presence is constant, unwavering, faithful. This is why you can have courage. This is why you can keep going. This is why you can trust the process, because you're not doing this alone. The one who created you, who called you, who has purposes for you, He's right there with you, every step of the way. Section 12, the call forward. So here's what I want you to do. Take a deep breath, feel the air fill your lungs, feel the life pulsing through your body. This is evidence, this is proof. God woke you up today because He's not done with you yet. Whatever you've been through, whatever you're facing right now, whatever fears or doubts or disappointments you're carrying, they don't have the final say. God does. And He says you have purpose. He says your story continues. He says there's more ahead. Will you believe Him? Will you trust Him? Will you take the next step, even if you can't see the whole staircase? Will you say yes to His purposes, even if they don't match your plans? Will you surrender your need for control and embrace His guidance? This is your moment, right now. In whatever circumstances you find yourself, however broken or whole you feel, however clear or confused your path appears, this is your moment to choose. Choose faith over fear. Choose hope over despair. Choose to believe that God's promises are true and His purposes for you are real. You woke up today. That's not coincidence. That's divine intention. God looked at you with all your history, all your struggles, all your imperfections, and He decided you're essential to His plans. He decided your purpose matters. He decided your story isn't finished. Don't waste this gift. Don't squander this opportunity. Don't let another day pass without recognizing the significance of your existence. You are here for a reason. You are alive for a purpose. You matter. As we close, I want you to receive this truth deep in your spirit. God is not done with you. Whatever you've done, wherever you've been, however you've failed, none of it disqualifies you from His purposes. His mercies are new every morning, and this morning, His mercy included waking you up. You have purpose today. Maybe it's something grand, or maybe it's something simple. Maybe it's encouraging one person, or maybe it's taking one step toward a dream. Maybe it's just getting through the day with faith intact. Whatever it is, it matters. You matter. Walk forward with confidence today. Not confidence in yourself, but confidence in the one who woke you up. He's faithful, He's good, He keeps His promises. And He promised that the work He started in you will be completed. You're not finished. Your story continues. Your purpose awaits. And the God who woke you up this morning will walk with you through every moment of this day and every day that follows until His purposes for you are fulfilled. This is your life. This is your purpose. This is your moment. God woke you up because He's not done with you yet. Now go live like you believe it.